Captain Hyunwoo stood at the window of his ship, looking out at the endless stars. The new Sol was floating quietly in space near a field of rocks and ice that had been drifting here for millions of years. His ship was small compared to the giant, alien vessels that ruled the galaxy, but it was the best humanity could build. The Galactic Empire had arrived at Earth 50 years ago, in ships so large they blocked out the sun. Their weapons could destroy entire cities with a single shot, and their technology was so advanced that human scientists still could not understand how it worked. The aliens looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. They demanded that Earth pay tribute every year, sending precious metals, food, and even people to work as slaves on distant worlds. Hyunwoo remembered being a young boy when the Empire ships first appeared in the sky. His father had been a pilot in the Human Defense Force and had died trying to protect Earth. The aliens had barely noticed the human resistance. Their shields absorbed every missile and bullet without taking any damage at all. The war, if you could call it that, lasted only 3 days. Now Hyunwoo commanded one of humanity's few remaining exploration ships. The Empire allowed humans to mine asteroids and explore empty space as long as they shared everything they found with their alien masters. It was humiliating, but it kept some humans alive and working among the stars. So Young burst onto the bridge of the ship. Her usually calm face was filled with excitement and her hands were shaking. She had been the ship's chief scientist for 5 years, and Hyunwoo had never seen her. This worked up about anything. "Captain, you must come see this right now," she said, her voice trembling. "We found something in the asteroid field that should not exist according to everything we know about science." Hyunwoo followed her to the ship's laboratory where the rest of the crew was already gathered. Engineer Taemin was staring at a small object on the examination table with wide eyes. Communications Officer Yoonji was recording everything with her equipment, and Security Chief Jin Ho stood guard at the door. The object was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It was about the size of a human fist and looked like it was made of crystal that changed colors as the light hit it. The crystal pulsed with a soft glow that seemed to come from deep inside it, and the air around it shimmered like heat waves rising from hot ground. "This thing is creating its own gravity field, so..." Young explained to the captain, but her instruments were going crazy every time she tried to measure it. "The readings make no sense at all. The crystal appears to be bending space around, itself creating tiny tears in reality that should be impossible." Hyunwoo moved closer to the crystal and felt a strange sensation, like electricity running through his body. The hair on his arm stood up, and he could swear he heard a faint humming sound that seemed to come from inside his own head. "Where exactly did we find this?" he asked. Taemin pointed to a display screen showing the asteroid field. "We were mining a large rock for rare metals when we broke through into a hollow chamber. The crystal was floating in the center, surrounded by metal walls covered in symbols we have never seen before. The whole chamber was perfectly preserved, like it had been waiting for us to find it." So Young continued her explanation. "The energy readings are off the charts. This small crystal is generating more power than our entire fusion reactor, but that is not the strangest part. The crystal seems to respond to conscious thought almost like it has some kind of intelligence." She showed them video recordings of her experiments. When she concentrated on the crystal, it pulsed brighter. When she thought about moving objects near it, they actually shifted position slightly. It was as if the crystal could read her mind and respond to her wishes. Communications. Officer Eunji spoke up. "I have been monitoring all Empire communication channels. There has been no mention of technology like this anywhere in their databases. Either they do not know about these crystals, or they are keeping them very secret." Security. Chief Jin Ho had been examining the metal walls where they found the crystal. "The symbols are definitely not from any known Empire species," he reported. "This looks like it might be from a civilization that existed before the Empire, maybe millions of years ago." Hyunwoo felt his heart racing as he realized what this discovery might mean. For 50 years, humanity had been helpless against the Empire. Their technology was so far ahead that humans might as well have been fighting with sticks and stones. But this crystal, this impossible object, might change everything. Engineer Taemin had been quietly studying the crystal's energy patterns. "Captain," he said finally, "I think I can build a new type of engine around this crystal. The energy output is incredible. and the way it manipulates space and time could allow us to travel faster than anything the Empire has ever built. The room fell silent as everyone realized what Taemin was suggesting. If they could harness the crystal's power, they might be able to build ships that could outrun Empire vessels. They might even be able to fight back against their alien oppressors. But So Young looked worried. "There are risks," she said. "The crystal responds to thoughts and emotions. If someone, with the wrong intentions, got control of it, the results could be catastrophic. We need to study it more carefully before we try to build anything." Yunwoo looked at each member of his crew. These brave humans had been living under alien rule their entire lives, watching their species treated like animals, but now they had found something that might give humanity a fighting chance. He made his decision. "Do it," he ordered. "Build the engine, and keep this discovery completely secret from everyone, especially any Empire observers. We cannot let them know what we have found." The crew exchanged glances, knowing that they were about to embark on the most dangerous mission in human history. If the Empire discovered what they were doing, the entire crew would be executed and Earth itself might face terrible punishment. But they also knew that this might be humanity's only chance to break free from alien slavery. Over the next few days, they carefully removed the crystal from the asteroid and brought it aboard the new Soul. So Young continued her studies while Taemin began designing new ship systems that could channel the crystal's incredible power. Yunji monitored Empire communications around the clock, and Jin Ho made sure their activities remained hidden. The crystal seemed to grow more responsive as they worked with it. Sometimes it would pulse in patterns that almost seemed like communication. Other times it would generate energy fields that made their instruments malfunction. In interesting ways, it was clear that they were dealing with technology far beyond human understanding. As Hyunwoo watched his crew work, he felt something he had not experienced since he was a child. Hope for the first time in 50 years. Humanity might have a weapon that could challenge the Empire. The crystal represented more than just advanced technology. It represented the possibility of freedom, but he also knew that they were walking into unknown territory. The crystal was clearly not human in origin, and its true purpose remained a mystery. They were about to modify their ship with alien technology they barely understood, and the consequences could be disastrous. Still, they had to try. The alternative was to remain slaves forever, and Hyunwoo would rather die fighting than live on his knees. The crew of the new Soul was about to attempt something that would either save humanity or destroy them all. 3 months passed as the crew of the new Soul worked in complete secrecy to rebuild their ship around the mysterious crystal. Every day brought new challenges and discoveries as they slowly learned how to work with technology that seemed to break every rule of physics they had ever known. Engineer Taemin barely slept during those months. He spent every waking hour in the ship's engine room designing and building new systems that could channel the crystal's incredible power. The work was dangerous and exhausting, but he pushed forward knowing that humanity's future might depend on his success. The crystal had to be placed at the very center of the ship where it could connect to every major system. Taemin carefully removed the old fusion reactor and replaced it with a chamber made of special metals he had found in the asteroid where they discovered the crystal. The new chamber hummed with energy and glowed with the same shifting colors as the crystal itself. Dr. So Young worked alongside Taemin, studying the crystal's properties and trying to understand how it produced such impossible effects. Her instruments had been modified so many times that they barely resembled the original equipment. The crystal seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, and her sensors had to be rebuilt to detect energy patterns that should not exist. "We are dealing with technology that is millions of years ahead of anything humans or even the Empire has developed," she reported. During one of their secret meetings, the crystal does not just generate energy, it actually manipulates the fabric of space and time itself. When we activate the new drive system, we will not be traveling through normal space at all. Communications Officer Unji had the dangerous job of monitoring all Empire communications while making sure their own activities remained hidden. Every day she intercepted hundreds of messages between Empire ships and bases looking for any sign that their secret project had been discovered. The aliens were arrogant and rarely paid attention to human activities, but one mistake could doom them all. The Empire considers us so primitive that they barely bother watching us, she reported. But we must still be extremely careful. There are automated monitoring systems throughout this sector that scan for unusual energy signatures. If they detect the crystal's power signature, we will have Imperial warships here within hours, Security Chief Jinho organized the crew's daily routines to look like normal asteroid mining operations. On the surface, everything appeared routine, but inside the ship they were building something that would revolutionize space travel. He also began training the crew for combat, knowing that sooner or later they would have to fight. The most challenging part of the project was creating an interface that would allow a human pilot to control the crystal directly. The crystal responded to thoughts and emotions, but connecting a human mind to alien technology was incredibly dangerous. Timon spent weeks designing a neural interface that could translate human thoughts into commands. The crystal could understand. "Captain, I must warn you about the risks," Timon explained. During a private meeting, the pilot who connects with the crystal will be linking their mind directly to technology we do not fully understand. The mental strain could be overwhelming, and there might be permanent effects we cannot predict. Several crew members volunteered to test the interface, but Captain Hyunwoo insisted that he would be the first to try it. The decision was his responsibility, and he would not ask his crew to take risks he was not willing to face himself. The first test was scheduled for a quiet period when no Empire ships were detected in the area. Hyunwoo lay down on the specially designed pilot chair, while Taemin attached the neural interface to his head. The device looked like a helmet made of the same crystal, material they had found with the original artifact. As soon as the interface activated, Hyunwoo felt his consciousness expand in ways he had never imagined. He could suddenly perceive dimensions of space that human senses could not normally detect. The ship around him became transparent, and he could see the energy flowing through every system. The crystal communicated with him not through words, but through pure understanding. He realized that it was not just a power source, but some kind of ancient artificial intelligence that had been waiting eons for someone to discover it. The crystal wanted to help them, and it showed him visions of what their ship could become. Focus on moving forward. Taemin called out from the control station. Start with small movements and do not try to push too hard. Hyunwoo concentrated on the idea of forward motion and felt the ship respond. The new soul did not accelerate in the normal way. Instead, it seemed to slip between layers of reality, moving through spaces that existed between dimensions. The sensation was terrifying and wonderful at the same time. "We just moved 3 light years in 10 seconds. So," Young whispered, staring at her instruments in amazement. "That is not just faster than light travel. That is faster than anything the Empire has ever achieved by a factor of thousands." When Hyunwoo disconnected from the interface, he was exhausted but exhilarated. They had done something that should have been impossible. They had built a ship that could travel through dimensions and move faster than the most advanced Empire vessels. Over the following weeks, they conducted more tests, always in secret and always in areas where Empire ships were not likely to patrol. Each test revealed new capabilities. The ship could not only travel at incredible speeds but could also phase in and out of normal space, making it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. The crystal's power also enhanced their weapon systems. When So Young channeled its energy through their plasma cannons, the beams could pass through solid matter and ignore energy shields. The defensive possibilities were equally impressive. The ship could generate a field that bent space around it, making enemy weapons pass harmlessly through empty space. But with each test, they also discovered new dangers. The crystal was incredibly powerful, but it demanded complete mental focus from whoever controlled it. A moment of distraction or fear could send the ship spinning, out of control through dimensions where no rescue would be possible. Yoonji intercepted a worrying transmission during their 4th week of testing. An Empire patrol ship reported unusual energy readings in their sector. The readings were faint, and the Empire commanders did not seem overly concerned, but it was clear that their activities were beginning to attract attention. "We need to be more careful, Captain," she warned. "The Empire may be primitive compared to whoever built this crystal, but they are not stupid. If we keep testing the drive, they will eventually send ships to investigate. Jin-Ho suggested they move to a different sector, but Hyunwoo decided they needed to finish their modifications first. The ship was almost ready, but there were still systems that needed to be integrated with the crystal's power. If they moved now, they might not have another chance to complete the work. So Young made a disturbing discovery during her continued studies of the crystal captain. "I think this crystal is part of a larger network," she reported. "There are energy signatures that suggest other crystals exist throughout the galaxy. If that is true, then whoever built this technology might have left a trail of these artifacts across known space." The implications were staggering. If there were more crystals hidden throughout the galaxy, they could potentially build an entire fleet of ships like the New Soul. Humanity might not just gain the ability to defend itself, but could become a major power in galactic politics. But first, they had to survive long enough to prove their ship could work in combat. Hyunwoo knew that sooner or later they would encounter Empire forces, and when that happened, everything would change. The galaxy had been stable under Empire rule for 10,000 years, but the New Soul was about to shatter that stability forever. As the modifications neared completion, the crew prepared for the most dangerous phase of their mission. Soon they would have to reveal their capabilities to the Empire, and when that happened, there would be no turning back. They were either about to liberate humanity or sign its death warrant. The moment Captain Hyunwoo had been dreading finally arrived during what should have been a routine supply run to the mining colony on Kepler 442b. The New Soul was carrying food and medical supplies to the human workers who extracted rare metals for the Empire. When the ship sensors detected an approaching vessel, communications officer Yoon-ji turned pale as she identified the incoming ship. Imperial Navy cruiser. Dominion's Fist, commanded by Commander Zethrak, she reported. Her voice was steady, but Hyunwoo could hear the fear underneath. One of the Empire's most experienced ship commanders, Commander Zethrak was known throughout the galaxy as a ruthless enforcer of Imperial law. He had destroyed countless rebel ships and enslaved entire planetary populations. His ship, the Dominion's Fist, was a massive vessel bristling with plasma cannons and protected by energy shields that could withstand the combined firepower of a dozen human ships. The Imperial cruiser was 10 times larger than the New Soul, and its dark hull gleamed with the metal that made Empire ships nearly indestructible. Weapon ports lined its sides like the eyes of some ancient predator, and its engines burned with the blue fire of antimatter reactors. Human ships looked like toys compared to Imperial warship's human vessel. "You will submit to immediate inspection." Commander Zethrak's message came through in the harsh, clicking language of his species. The automatic translation made his words sound cold and mechanical. "Your ship is showing unusual energy signatures that require investigation." Captain Hyunwoo looked at his crew, knowing that this was the moment that would determine humanity's future. If they tried to run using conventional engines, the Imperial cruiser would destroy them easily. But if they used the crystal's power, they would reveal capabilities that the Empire had never seen before. Dr. So Young was monitoring the Imperial ship's systems, standard Empire technology. She reported plasma weapons, antimatter, drive conventional, faster than light engines. They are powerful, but everything they have follows the same basic principles we have seen for 50 years. Engineer Timon was ready at the crystal interface. "The new drive system is fully operational, Captain," he said quietly. "But once we activate it, there will be no hiding what we can do. The entire galaxy will know that humanity has access to technology beyond anything the Empire possesses." Security Chief Jin-Ho was tracking the Imperial ships' weapons. "Their plasma cannons are charging and their torpedo tubes are loaded," he warned. "They are not planning to just inspect us. If we do not surrender immediately, they will open fire." Hyunwoo made his decision in that moment, knowing that he was choosing between certain death and the unknown. "Timon, activate the crystal drive," he ordered. "All crew prepare for combat." The crystal responded to Hyunwoo's mental commands with an eagerness that was almost frightening. The ship around him seemed to dissolve as his consciousness merged with the ancient alien intelligence that lived within the crystal. He could perceive the Imperial cruiser not as a solid object, but as a pattern of energy and matter that could be manipulated. The New Soul vanished from the Imperial ship's sensors in an instant, disappearing from normal space-time and slipping between dimensions that the Empire did not even know existed. Commander Zethrak stared at his displays in confusion as the human ship simply ceased to exist. Impossible. His science officer reported frantically. Their ship just disappeared from all sensors. No ship can move that fast or hide that completely. Before Zethrak could respond, the new soul reappeared directly behind the Dominions, Fist having traveled several thousand kilometers in less than a second. The Imperial crew watched in horror as the tiny human ship materialized out of empty space like a ghost, becoming solid captain. Yunwu felt the crystal's power flowing through every system of his ship. The plasma cannons had been modified to channel the crystal's energy, and when they fired, the beams did not travel through normal space. Instead, the energy manifested directly inside the Imperial ship's shields, bypassing their defenses completely. The modified plasma beam struck the Dominion's fist with precision, calculated to disable rather than destroy. The beam carved through the Imperial ship's engine section, severing power conduits and damaging the antimatter containment system. The massive cruiser shuddered as its engines failed and emergency systems activated throughout the ship. Commander Zethrak felt his ship dying around him and could not understand what was happening. No weapon should be able to penetrate Imperial shields. The humans were using technology that violated every law of physics he knew. His crew was panicking as systems failed throughout the ship. "How are they doing this?" he demanded of his science officer. "Our shields are at full power. Their weapons should not be able to touch us." The science officer stared at his instruments with wide eyes. "Commander, they are not using conventional weapons. Their attacks appear to be coming from inside our shields. It is as if they are shooting through dimensions we cannot access or even detect." The new soul moved around the disabled Imperial cruiser like a dancer performing an impossible ballet. The ship flickered in and out of visibility as Captain Hyunwoo used the crystal's power to phase between dimensions. It appeared in multiple locations simultaneously as parts of the ship existed in different layers of reality. "Commander, this is Captain Hyunwoo of the human vessel." "New soul." Hyunwoo's voice came through the communication system, calm and confident. "Your ship is disabled, but your crew is unharmed. We could have destroyed you easily, but we chose not to." Zethrak felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career: fear. These humans, whom he had always considered barely intelligent animals, had just demonstrated technology that made the Empire's greatest achievements look primitive. "You will return to your superiors and deliver this message," Yunwu continued. "Humanity will no longer bow to the Empire. We have found our strength and we will use it to defend ourselves and anyone else who seeks freedom from Imperial tyranny." The new soul began moving away from the damaged Imperial cruiser, but not through normal space. Instead, it seemed to fold reality around itself, traveling vast distances by stepping through dimensions that existed between the normal layers of space-time. "Wait," Commander Zethrak called out desperately. "What technology are you using? How is this possible?" But the human ship was already gone, vanishing into the space between dimensions where Imperial sensors could not follow. Zethrak was left alone with his crippled vessel, and a story that his superiors would find almost impossible to believe. The Dominion's Fist limped back toward Imperial space using emergency power and backup engines. The journey that should have taken days now stretched into weeks, as the damaged ship crawled through space at a fraction of its normal speed. Commander Zethrak used the time to analyze every piece of data his sensors had recorded. The humans had demonstrated capabilities that should not exist. They had moved faster than light without using conventional engines. They had fired weapons that ignored energy shields, and they had vanished from sensors completely during parts of the engagement. Most disturbing of all, they had shown restraint, choosing to disable rather than destroy an Imperial warship. When the damaged cruiser finally reached Imperial space, the news of its encounter spread quickly through military communication networks. A human ship had defeated one of the Empire's most powerful vessels using technology that violated the fundamental laws of physics. Admiral Korthan, commander of the Third Fleet, received Zethrak's report with a mixture of disbelief and rage. No primitive species had ever challenged imperial authority successfully. The idea that humans could develop technology superior to Empire science was almost unthinkable, but the AIM sensor logs did not lie. The new Sol had moved in ways that should have torn the ship apart from gravitational stress. It had fired weapons that passed through solid matter and ignored energy shields. It had demonstrated mastery over space and time that the Empire could not match. The galaxy was about to change in ways that no one could predict. The impossible had happened, and word would spread to every corner of known space. A human ship had made the mighty Galactic Empire look weak, and vulnerable rebellions that had been crushed for millennia would stir to life again as oppressed species realized that even the Empire could be challenged. Admiral Corthan was the most feared military commander in the Galactic Empire, a being who had conquered over 1,000 worlds and crushed countless rebellions during his 500-year career. His massive form towered over his subordinates as he stood in the command center of his flagship, studying the impossible reports that had just arrived from the frontier. The Imperial Navy had never suffered a defeat like this in its 10,000-year history. A single human vessel had disabled one of their most powerful cruisers and escaped without taking any damage. The sensor log showed movements that violated every known law of physics and weapons that ignored their most advanced defensive systems. "This cannot be accurate, Admiral." Corthan snarled at the assembled commanders of the Third Fleet, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. "Humans are barely intelligent enough to maintain the mining equipment we provide them. They cannot possibly have developed technology that surpasses our own," but Commander Zethrak stood before them, broken and humiliated, insisting that every word of his report was true. His ship, the Dominion's Fist, was currently undergoing extensive repairs in the orbital shipyards above the Imperial Barter capital. The damage patterns were unlike anything their engineers had ever seen. The human vessel moved through space in ways that should be impossible. Zethrak explained for the 100th time, his voice still shaking from the encounter. "It appeared and disappeared at will, fired weapons that passed through our shields as if they did not exist, and demonstrated control over space and time that we cannot match." Admiral Corthan had seen the sensor recordings dozens of times, but they still made no sense. The human ship seemed to exist in multiple dimensions, simultaneously appearing in several locations at once, before vanishing completely from all detection systems. When it attacked, its weapons manifested inside Imperial shields, bypassing their defenses entirely. Fleet Commander Vaxis, one of Corthan's most trusted officers, stepped forward. "Admiral, if this report is accurate, then we are dealing with technology that is millions of years beyond our current capabilities. The humans may have discovered artifacts left behind by the ancients. The ancients were a mysterious civilization that had existed long before the Empire rose to power. Scattered ruins found throughout the galaxy suggested that they had possessed incredible technology. Before disappearing without explanation, most Imperial scientists believed the ancients had destroyed themselves with their own advanced weapons. Admiral Corthan considered this possibility with growing alarm. If the humans had found ancient technology and learned to use it, they could pose a threat to the entire Empire. Their species might be primitive, but they were also unpredictable and aggressive. They had proven that by resisting Imperial conquest longer than most species, we must respond immediately. And decisively, Corthan declared to his commanders, "Gather the entire Third Fleet, every ship we can spare from other sectors. We will find this human vessel and destroy it along with any others like it. The primitive species must learn that defying the Empire leads only to extinction." The Third Fleet was the largest military force in Imperial space, consisting of over 300 warships, including massive dreadnoughts that could destroy entire planets. The fleet had never been defeated in battle, and its mere appearance in a star system was usually enough to force immediate surrender. But privately, Admiral Corthan was worried. The human ship's capabilities suggested technology that could make Imperial vessels obsolete. If there were more ships like the new Sol hidden throughout human space, the Empire might face its first serious military challenge in millennia. Meanwhile, aboard the new Sol, Captain Hyun Woo and his crew were dealing with the consequences of their actions. They had revealed capabilities that would inevitably bring Imperial retaliation, but they had also proven that humanity could fight back against their alien oppressors. So Young had been studying the crystal more intensively since their encounter with the Imperial cruiser. The artifact was responding to their victory with increased activity, pulsing with energy patterns that seemed almost like excitement. "I am learning more about how the crystal works," she reported to the assembled crew. "It is definitely not just a power source but some kind of ancient artificial intelligence. The crystal seems to have been waiting for someone to discover it and use it against the Empire engineer." Taemin had been working around the clock to improve their ship systems using knowledge gained from their first combat experience. The crystal had shown him visions during the battle, revealing new possibilities for their technology. "Captain, I can modify our weapons to be even more effective against Imperial ships," he explained. "The crystal can channel energy in ways that will allow us to disable multiple targets simultaneously. We could potentially take on entire fleets if necessary." Communications Officer Yunji was monitoring Imperial communications networks, and the news she brought was both encouraging and terrifying. Word of their victory was spreading throughout the galaxy faster than the Empire could control it. Rebel groups on dozens of worlds are sending secret messages asking how they can contact us. She reported oppressed species throughout the galaxy are beginning to believe that the Empire can be defeated. But the Empire is also mobilizing massive military forces to hunt us down. Security Chief Jin Ho had been analyzing Imperial fleet movements using intercepted communication traffic. "The Third Fleet is gathering at the Vega system," he warned. "That is over 300 warships, including some of the most powerful vessels in the Imperial Navy. They are preparing for a campaign of total extermination." Captain Hyunwoo realized that they had reached a point where retreat was impossible. The Empire would never stop hunting them now, and any attempt to hide would only delay the inevitable confrontation. Their only choice was to fight and hope that their ancient technology could overcome the Empire's numerical superiority. But they were not alone in this struggle. Communications continued to arrive from rebel groups throughout the galaxy, offering support and requesting assistance. The Zeridians, who had been enslaved for over 2,000 years, sent coordinates for a secret meeting. The Corvan resistance offered to provide intelligence about Imperial fleet movements. "We need to make contact with these groups, Captain." Hyunwoo decided if we can coordinate our efforts and share our technology, we might be able to turn this into a real rebellion, instead of just one ship fighting alone. Dr. So Young made another important discovery during her continued research. "The crystal is part of a network," she announced excitedly. "There are other crystals hidden throughout the galaxy, and I think I can modify our sensors to locate them. If we can find more crystals, we can build more ships like ours." The implications were staggering. If they could locate other ancient artifacts, they could potentially create a fleet of ships with impossible capabilities. Humanity might not just survive the coming war, but could emerge as a major galactic power. But first they had to survive the Imperial counterattack that was already being organized. Admiral Corthan was gathering the largest military force ever assembled specifically to hunt down and destroy their ship. The battle would determine not just the fate of the new Sol but the future of freedom in the galaxy. Engineer Taemin finished his modifications to their ship systems just as long-range sensors detected Imperial scout ships entering their sector. The crystal pulsed with anticipation, seeming to understand that another battle was approaching. "Captain, the crystal is showing me something new," Taemin reported with excitement. "We are not limited to just moving through space. The crystal can manipulate time as well. We might be able to slow down enemy attacks, or even reverse damage to our ship, Captain." Hyunwoo felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. His crew had discovered technology that could reshape the galaxy, but they were about to face an enemy force hundreds of times larger than their single ship. The ancient crystal had chosen them to carry its power, but whether they were worthy of that trust remained to be seen. The new Sol prepared for a battle that would echo through history as the Third Fleet began its hunt for the ship that had dared to challenge the might of the Galactic Empire. The Third Fleet arrived at the Kepler system like a metallic storm, stretching across space in a formation that blocked out the stars. 300 Imperial warships moved in perfect coordination, their dark hulls reflecting the light of distant suns. Admiral Corthan's flagship, the Eternal Dominion, led the massive armada forward with weapons charged and shields at maximum power, Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the New Seoul, watching the approaching fleet through the view screen. He had seen Imperial ships before, but never in such overwhelming numbers. Each vessel was larger than his ship and carried enough firepower to destroy entire cities. The combined might of the Third Fleet could reduce planets to rubble within hours' communications. Officer Eunji was tracking Imperial transmissions as the fleet spread out to surround the entire star system. "They are deploying in a sphere formation," she reported. "No ship will be able to escape without passing through their lines. They have brought enough forces to guarantee our destruction." Dr. So-young was monitoring the crystal, which had begun pulsing faster as the Imperial fleet approached. The ancient artifact seemed to sense the approaching battle and was generating more energy than they had ever recorded before. "Captain, the crystal is responding to the threat," she said with excitement in her voice. "I think it wants to show us capabilities we have never seen before." Engineer Taemin was ready at the neural interface, knowing that the upcoming battle would test every modification he had made to their ship systems. The crystal had been teaching him new possibilities during their journey to this system, and he was eager to see what their ship could truly accomplish. Admiral Corthan transmitted his demands across all frequencies in the harsh clicking language of his species. "Human vessel, you are surrounded and outgunned by forces beyond your comprehension. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick. If you resist, we will make your suffering last for days." Captain Hyunwoo activated the communication system and responded in clear human language. "Admiral Corthan, you have brought an impressive fleet to hunt down one small ship, but you still do not understand what you are truly facing. We did not come here to surrender. We came here to show the galaxy that even empires can fall." The New Seoul suddenly vanished from Imperial sensors, disappearing so completely that it seemed to have never existed at all. "Admiral." Corthan stared at his displays in confusion, as 300 ships searched empty space for a target that had simply ceased to exist. "Where did they go?" he demanded of his science officers. "Find that ship immediately." Before anyone could respond, the human vessel materialized in the exact center of the Imperial formation, appearing out of nowhere. Like a ghost becoming solid, Captain Hyunwoo had connected his consciousness to the crystal and was experiencing reality in ways that human minds were never meant to perceive. Through the crystal's power, he could see the Imperial fleet not as solid objects but as patterns of energy and matter that could be manipulated. The ancient alien intelligence that lived within the crystal was guiding his thoughts, showing him how to bend space and time to his will. The New Soul began moving in patterns that hurt to watch, flickering in and out of existence as it phased between dimensions that the Imperial sensors could not detect. The ship appeared to be in multiple locations simultaneously, as different parts of it existed in separate layers of reality. "All ships open fire," Admiral Corthan commanded desperately. "Destroy that vessel." Now 300 Imperial warships opened fire at once, filling space with thousands of plasma beams, energy missiles, and particle weapons. The combined firepower was enough to vaporize small moons. But the New Soul danced between the attacks like it was performing some impossible ballet. Captain Hyunwoo felt the crystal guiding his movements as the ship slipped through spaces that existed between the normal dimensions of reality. Enemy weapons passed harmlessly through areas where the ship had been milliseconds before, while the New Soul appeared behind Imperial vessels to strike at their most vulnerable systems. Dr. So-young had learned to channel the crystal's power through their modified weapon systems. When the New Soul fired its plasma cannons, the energy beams did not travel through normal space at all. Instead, they manifested directly inside enemy ships, bypassing shields and armor, to strike critical systems with surgical precision. Target their engines, not their life support systems. Captain Hyunwoo ordered over the communication system. "We are fighting for freedom, not genocide." The battle was unlike anything ever recorded in galactic history. The New Soul moved through the Imperial formation like a predator, hunting among helpless prey. One by one, the massive Imperial warships found their engines disabled, their weapons destroyed, and their systems failing as impossible attacks struck them from within their own defenses. Admiral Corthan watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically dismantled by a single enemy vessel. His flagship, The Eternal Dominion shuddered as the human ship's weapons materialized inside their shields, striking the engines with precision that should have been impossible. "How are they doing this?" he screamed at his science officers. "Our shields should stop any known weapon. Their attacks are appearing inside our defenses, Admiral. They are not using any technology. We can understand." His chief scientist reported with panic in his voice. "The human ship seems to exist in multiple dimensions. Simultaneously, they are attacking us through spaces we cannot even detect with our most advanced sensors." The battle continued for hours, but it was never really a contest. The new soul moved like a ghost, striking wherever it chose and vanishing. Before return fire could reach it, Imperial ships tried to ram the human vessel only to have it phase out of normal space at the last second, causing the attacking ships to collide with empty air engineer Tai Min was pushing the crystal's capabilities. Beyond anything they had attempted before, the ancient artifact was responding eagerly to the combat, showing him how to manipulate not just space but time itself. The new soul began moving, so